Shalom, I'm Michael Panitz, the rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, speaking to you from the pulpit of our home congregation. Today I'm going to talk to you on the theme of curses or consequences. Curses or consequences. Earlier this summer, our home air conditioning was out for 2 weeks. The temperature in the house climbed to 87 degrees and hovered there day and night. My family and I had the tiniest of tastes of what poor people and poor countries go through in the summer. The problem is not only a matter of inconvenience on the micro scale. The world is baking, and it's our own fault. One of the most maddening features of the current gridlock in American politics is that climate change, acceptance or denial, has become a partisan wedge issue. If ever there was a problem that will affect all of us, it's climate change. Among its other effects, climate change is accelerating the problems of desertification and drought. In 2018, the European Commission Joint Research Center published a world atlas of desertification. At that time, it found these alarming statistics and trends. Point: over 75% of the Earth's land area is already degraded, and over 90% could become degraded by 2050. Point: globally, a total area half the size of the European Union is degraded annually, with Africa and Asia being the most affected. Point: the economic cost of soil degradation for the European Union is estimated to be in the order of tens of billions of euros annually. Point: land degradation and climate change are estimated to lead to a reduction of global crop yields by about 10% by 2050. Most of this will occur in India, China, and sub-Saharan Africa, where land degradation could halve crop production. Point: as a consequence of accelerated deforestation, it will become more difficult to mitigate the effects of climate change. Point: by 2050, up to 700 million people are estimated to be displaced due to issues related to scarce land resources. Americans ought not think that the problem of climate devastation is mostly a matter of third world countries. It is not only the southern rim of the Sahara Desert and across swaths of Asia where desert is overtaking grassland and forest. Our country, too, is dealing with unprecedented climate problems. The American West is facing its worst drought in over a millennium. The American accomplishment of world-leading economic development in the 20th century involved massive attempts to master nature. When I was a child, part of the regular social studies curriculum was a breathless survey of the dams, reservoirs, and hydroelectric generating projects of the Tennessee Valley and the American West. The meta-message was that we were masters of nature. The problem was not only short-sightedness. True, we did not take into account longer-range consequences of our manipulation of nature. But the problem was more fundamental. It was the attitude that we are somehow immune from the condition of creatureliness. We had the idea that no matter what problems we caused, our next invention would restore everything and better than ever. It turns out that, as we know from the 1974 chiffon margarine commercial, quote, "It's not nice to fool Mother Nature." You may recall that commercial in which the margarine is so successful at tasting like butter that Mother Nature becomes enraged, and then all sorts of hell breaks loose. The self-defeating long-term result of that attitude can be graphically seen in so many places. Let's look at Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States. It supplies water to millions across 7 states, tribal lands, and northern Mexico. As of July, 1 month ago, Lake Mead had dropped to only 27% of capacity. This is the lowest it has ever been since it was first filled nearly a century ago. Recent heavy rains in the region have provided a tiny bit of improvement, but the big picture is one of great danger. Nearly 3/4 of 9 western states face some level of drought, and over 1/3 of the area is now facing extreme drought. This includes 83% of Colorado. Since the snowpack in that mountainous region is thinner than in previous years, the outlook moving forward is poor. Lake Mead is an indicator, not an outlier. Please look at the U.S. Drought Monitor, released just last week. It shows that most of our country is affected, and much of the United States in a condition of severe, extreme, or even exceptional drought. I'm a rabbi, not a climatologist. My point is not simply to sound an alarm using the tool of the pulpit. I also want to show you that environmental action is our mandate as a people covenanted with God. Consider the words of this week's Torah portion. V'haya im shamoa is what it's called in Hebrew. It's the second paragraph of the 3-paragraph anthology that we call the Shema prayer. If you indeed heed my commands, with which I charge you today, to love the Lord your God and to worship God with all your heart and all your being, I will give rain of your land in its season, early rains and late, and you shall eat and be sated. Watch yourselves, lest your heart be seduced, and you swerve and worship other gods and bow to them, the Lord's wrath flare against you, and God hold back the heavens, and there be no rain, and the soil give not its yield, and you perish swiftly from the goodly land. All that is Deuteronomy chapter 11. According to Deuteronomy, the curse of desertification is the consequence of idolatry. For much of the modern era, progressive Jews were somewhat embarrassed by that passage. It was so unscientific. Typically in our synagogues, we would sing the first and or the 3rd paragraph of the Shema, but this passage in the 2nd paragraph we would either skip entirely or consign to silent reading. But now we know that desertification is indeed the consequence of a particular kind of idolatry, the hubris of thinking that we are masters of nature, not creatures constrained by the limits of God's world. The worship of human power is a uniquely modern form of idolatry. No less than the fetishistic adoration of idols, though, it is surely the worship of something other than God, and therefore avodah zarah, strange worship, idolatry. The environmental devastation that we face is a curse, but it is also a consequence. It is urgent that we change course. May God help us to remember that we, descendants of Adam, have been placed into this world le'ovda u'leshomra, not only to till it, but also to tend it, not only to control, but also to conserve, not only to subdue, but also to support. If we can accomplish that, we can get closer to the situation described at the end of the 6 days of creation. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od. God saw all that God had made, and indeed it was very good. Amen.